Ever feel like you're pouring just endless effort into self-improvement? Reading all the books, listening, hustling like crazy, but you still feel kind of stuck. Maybe even, I don't know, more overwhelmed than when you started?
Oh, absolutely. It's a really common feeling, that sense of running on a hamster wheel. And look, it probably isn't your fault. It might just be that your brain, well, it's running on a slightly outdated operating system.
An outdated OS. I
Yeah.
like that. Like it's just not built for the sheer complexity of everything coming at us today.
Precisely. You're trying to navigate this incredibly intricate, fast-moving world, 2025 and beyond, with a mindset that was maybe optimized for, well, a slower past. All that struggle, that constant pushing, it often leads to diminishing returns. You put in more, you get less back, and you just feel exhausted. Profoundly exhausted sometimes.
Yeah, that burnout is real. And that's exactly why today we're diving deep into something that's much more than just another productivity guide. Think of this as your personal transformation blueprint. We've been looking into a really groundbreaking approach to achieving, well, monumental results, but with surprising ease. Effortlessness, almost. We've uncovered what feels like a really powerful framework. It's designed to help, rewire your mind for that deep focus we all crave, build automatic systems for your most crucial work, and also overcome fear, forge new success pathways, the kind that eventually run on autopilot. It really feels like the upgrade your brain have been screaming for.
It really is. And what's truly fascinating, I think, about these insights we've gathered is how they challenge our really deeply ingrained beliefs about effort and success. The whole no pain, no gain thing. This is about potentially flipping some of that conventional wisdom right on its head.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's unpack this. Where do we start? What's the first key principle our exploration revealed?
Right. The first big idea is deceptively simple. Invert.
Invert. How so?
Well, think about how most of us approach a big task or goal. We're conditioned, often from a young age, to believe that anything truly valuable must be hard.
Right. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Like if it's easy, it's probably not worth much.
Exactly. So we instinctively start with that assumption of struggle. We ask ourselves, okay, this is going to be difficult. How can I make this difficult thing maybe a little bit easier?
We brace for impact.
We do. And that's precisely where the inversion comes in. Our research points towards a really radical shift in that initial question. Instead of how to make the hard thing easier, ask, what if this could be easy? What is the absolute simplest, most effortless path to achieve not just the same result, but maybe even a better one?
Whoa. Okay, what if this could be easy? That feels almost wrong to ask sometimes.
Yeah.
Like cheating.
Doesn't it? But think about the sheer velocity of information, the demands flying at us today. If you always choose the hard path, the path of most resistance, well, burnout isn't just a possibility down the line, it's pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah, you just can't sustain that forever.
You can't. You absolutely cannot out-hustle the modern world, or a machine for that matter. But what you can do is outthink it. You outthink it by deliberately searching for and discovering those simpler, more elegant paths. It's about leveraging leverage, finding the point where the smallest push creates the biggest movement.
So it's not about avoiding effort entirely, because some things do require work, obviously.
Of course not.
But it's about applying that effort intelligently, using our energy to find the path of least resistance that still delivers maximum impact. Is that kind of the idea?
That's exactly it. It's strategic effort. And that connects quite seamlessly into the next principle we found.
Okay, I think I see where this might be going. How does finding the easy path connect to, well, making things run more smoothly over time? Does it link to automation?
You got it. That leads us perfectly to our second core principle, automate. The central idea here is shifting from one-off wins, constantly chasing the next task, to building residual results.
Residual results, meaning?
Meaning, you put in effort now that continues to produce results, value, or output long after that initial investment of time and energy is over. Think less like manual labor on a production line, and more like designing the actual production line system itself.
I love that image. It's like planting a fruit tree instead of constantly having to go out and forage for berries every single day.
Precisely. The tree, once established, keeps producing with minimal ongoing intervention. The foraging is constant toil.
And in today's world, especially with things like AI becoming so powerful at, say, processing data or even creating basic content, your unique human advantage, your leverage, increasingly becomes building the systems, the assets, those fruit trees, that generate value over time. That feels like the way to escape that constant creation treadmill so many people feel stuck on.
It absolutely is. Imagine, say, a solopreneur, a consultant maybe, instead of just trading hours for dollars indefinitely? What if they spent some upfront effort building maybe an AI-powered custom tool, something that analyzes client data in a unique way or generates qualified leads automatically after the initial setup and tweaking?
Right. The setup takes effort, maybe significant effort.
Sure, it might.
But once it's running, it works for them day in, day out, with much less direct involvement. That's the power of automation we're talking about.
That's the essence of it, building something once that pays dividends repeatedly. And this focus on long-term systems naturally flows into the third powerful concept that emerged.
Okay, so we invert to find the simplest path. Then we automate to get residual results.
Yeah.
What comes next?
The third principle is trust.
Trust. Trust in what? The system? Myself?
Well, yes, partly. But more fundamentally, it's about trusting the predictable power of compounding and patience. It's about leveraging time. The most truly effortless path, paradoxically, isn't always the fastest one in the short term. It's often the one that relies on gradual, consistent progress, allowing effects to compound over time.
Ah, okay. That fights directly against our modern wiring, doesn't it? We're so geared towards instant gratification. See result and no W.
We absolutely are. Everything pushes us towards immediacy, quarter-to-quarter thinking, instant results, viral hits, and that immense pressure often makes us abandon brilliant patient strategies way too soon because they don't show spectacular results in week 1 or month 1.
Yeah, you start something, you don't see a huge spike immediately, and you think, this isn't working, and jump to the next shiny object.
Exactly that. But our deep dive really highlighted this. Those individuals and organizations who cultivate the discipline to resist that urge, the ones who build patiently, consistently, trusting the process, they create this incredibly solid, unshakable foundation. It's a kind of momentum that short-term thinking simply can't replicate or compete with in the long run.
It really is the difference between, say, a frantic sprint that leaves you breathless after 100 yards and a steady marathon pace that actually covers vastly more ground over time and potentially feels less strenuous doing it.
Beautifully put. It's about playing the long game, trusting that small, consistent inputs will lead to massive outputs eventually, and that requires a certain kind of faith in the process and in time.
Which I imagine is easier to maintain if you're not constantly feeling exhausted and burned out.
Precisely. Which brings us, quite logically, to the fourth key insight our exploration reinforced: the critical importance of rest and recharge.
Okay, now this one definitely feels counterintuitive for a lot of ambitious people. Rest. Isn't success about pushing harder, longer hours?
That's the prevailing myth, isn't it? Especially in certain high-achieving cultures. We tend to equate long hours, butts in seats, with dedication and output. But the data and the examples of the most consistently high performers, the ones achieving truly significant, groundbreaking things over the long haul, they tell a different story. They master strategic rest and renewal. It's not about laziness, it's about recognizing that peak performance isn't sustainable without deliberate periods of recovery. It's part of the system, not a break from it.
So rest isn't the opposite of work, it's part of the work.
In a way, yes. Think of it as an investment in your primary asset, your brain, your energy, your creativity.
That always-on culture we hear so much about. It's essentially a direct recipe for chronic burnout, isn't it? It depletes the very resources we need most.
Absolutely. It stifles creativity. It inhibits strategic thinking. It leads to mistakes. We've seen compelling evidence showing that human innovation, insight, complex problem solving, these things only truly flourish when our brains are given the space to recover, to consolidate information, to synthesize new connections. That happens during downtime.
So mastering strategic rest, whether it's short breaks during the day, proper sleep, longer vacations, hobbies, it isn't some kind of soft luxury. It's actually a non-negotiable competitive advantage in the modern world.
It is. It allows you to sustain high performance over the long term and often to reach higher peaks when you are working because you're coming at it fresh and focused.
Focus. Okay, that sounds like a good transition. If you're rested and you found the simpler path and maybe automated parts of it, what's the final piece?
The final piece ties it all together. It's focus. Specifically, the art of graceful completion.
Graceful completion. I like the sound of that.
It means recognizing that often the simplest, most direct, and ultimately most effortless way to get truly important things done is to do them one at a time, with deep, unwavering attention. seeing them through to completion before moving on to the next vital task.
Man, that truly is a superpower in our hyper-distracted world today. Just the ability to single task deeply.
It is becoming increasingly rare, isn't it? We're bombarded with notifications, emails, social media pings, the pressure to juggle multiple things at once.
Yeah, the myth of multitasking dies hard. We think we're being productive by juggling, but mostly we're just switching context rapidly and poorly.
Exactly. Context switching is incredibly costly in terms of mental energy and time. Deep, focused work, on the other hand, is how you produce exceptional results, work that genuinely stands out. When you can dedicate your full cognitive resources to a single essential task, you not only do it better and often faster, but you also experience less stress and friction in the process. It feels more graceful, effortless even.
So putting it all together then. Invert to find the easy path. Automate for residual results. Trust in compounding and patience. Rest to recharge your capacity. And focus to complete with grace.
That's the framework. And you can see, hopefully, that this isn't about finding sneaky shortcuts to avoid work altogether. That's not the goal. It's about working smarter. It's about applying profound intelligence, a certain kind of grace, to how we approach our tasks and goals, leading ultimately to far greater impact with less struggle.
It's a fundamental shift in mindset. And it's important to remember, if you're listening and feeling that overwhelm we talked about at the start, you're not broken. You're not lazy or incapable. Not at all.
No.
You're likely just wired for a world or operating under assumptions from a world that maybe told you struggle was a necessary badge of honor, that it was the only ingredient for success.
Right, but the landscape has shifted dramatically. The sheer scale and speed of change demand a new internal operating system, going back to your earlier analogy. And the true achievers, the winners, if you will, in this new era, they won't necessarily be the ones who just hustle the hardest or burn the midnight oil the longest. They'll be the ones who purposefully rewire themselves, the ones who learn to consistently ask, what if this could be easy? The ones who invert problems. They'll be the ones who build systems to automate for compounding results, who cultivate the patience to trust in the long game, who understand the power of strategic recharge, and who develop the discipline to focus with absolute intent on what truly matters.
It sounds like taking control back. Stop just reacting to the endless chaos and demands flying at you.
Yes.
And instead, start consciously rehearsing, designing, building your own more effortless future. Does that make sense?
Perfectly.
All right.
It implies agency. The path to achieving more, achieving bigger things doesn't have to be this constant grinding uphill battle.
It really can be lighter. It can feel more joyful. It can, and perhaps it truly should, feel more effortless.
And your transformation, your upgrade, it begins not necessarily with adding more effort in the old sense, but with applying a new kind of effort, the deliberate, conscious effort required to simplify, to automate, to build trust, to prioritize rest, and to sharpen your focus. It's the effort involved in building your own personal effortless system.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. Just imagine, if your biggest leaps forward, your most significant achievements in the coming year, came not from pushing harder and harder through brute force, but from making the conscious choice, the strategic decision to make your most important work feel effortless. What would that unlock for you? What possibilities would that open up?